Imagine standing at the edge of time, looking back more than 2,400 years ago, to a place unlike any other in the ancient world, Athens, a city filled with energy, intellect, and possibility, where ideas flourished as much as the grand marble temples and busy marketplaces. A city where great thinkers from the likes of Socrates to Aristotle walked the streets, debating the nature of life, the universe, and everything in between. But at the heart of this intellectual revolution was one name that would come to symbolize the very foundation of Western philosophy: Plato. Born into a wealthy and influential family, Plato's early life seemed destined for a career in politics or public service. But something greater called to him. In a world that was full of distractions, wealth, power, fame, Plato turned his attention inward, searching for something deeper, something more meaningful. His quest wasn't about collecting wealth or gaining influence. It was about understanding the true purpose of life itself. He didn't just want to understand the world. He wanted to help others live better, more fulfilled lives. Picture this: a time when the ancient world was teeming with people chasing after fame, glory, and status. Sound familiar? Today, in many ways, we still see the same tendencies: people fixated on wealth, status, and external achievements. Yet, just like today, Plato saw something essential missing in the lives of his contemporaries. They were so caught up in the race for superficial success that they failed to ask the most important question of all: what is the true purpose of life? What does it mean to live well? In his search for answers, Plato came to realize that the answers weren't to be found in wealth or fame. They were found within, in the pursuit of wisdom, justice, and personal growth. In his dialogues, Plato explored profound questions about existence, happiness, and the nature of the good life, developing ideas that would shape not just the intellectual world of his time, but the way we think about life today. Now, I'm sure you're wondering, what can we learn from someone who lived over 2 millennia ago? How can ideas from ancient Athens possibly be relevant to our lives today? Well, as we dive into this video, I want you to keep an open mind, because Plato's philosophy, though ancient, holds incredibly powerful lessons for us. His ideas about love, beauty, self-reflection, and leadership transcend time and continue to resonate deeply with our modern struggles we all face in a world filled with distractions, superficial goals, and constant noise. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you stopped to really think about your life? I mean, really thought about what makes life meaningful, what truly fulfills you? Are we so busy chasing after external achievements that we forget to look inside? Are we living in a way that aligns with our deepest values? These are the very questions that Plato wanted us to answer. And in doing so, he offers a blueprint for a life well lived. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore 4 key ideas from Plato's philosophy. These aren't just abstract concepts or ancient musings. They are practical, actionable lessons that can help us create a more meaningful, fulfilled life. From understanding the power of self-reflection, to realizing the transformative role of love, to discovering how beauty can teach us profound lessons, Plato's ideas are as relevant now as they were in ancient Athens. So, why should we care about Plato? What makes his philosophy so enduring? Well, think about this. The world we live in is more connected than ever, but it's also more distracted. We're constantly bombarded with images of success, wealth, and beauty, and it's easy to lose sight of what truly matters. Plato, through his deep insights, reminds us that the most important things in life are not external possessions or fleeting pleasures, but internal virtues and the pursuit of wisdom. And in a world that can often feel overwhelming, Plato's teachings provide a calming, guiding light to help us find our way. In this video, we're going to dive deep into Plato's world, exploring the powerful ideas he left behind, ideas that still hold the power to change the way we live, think, and act. So stick with me, because I promise you, by the end of this journey, you'll look at life a little differently. And who knows, maybe, just like Plato hoped, you'll come away with the tools to live a more fulfilled, meaningful life. Let's start with a simple question. What does it mean to live well? It's a question that Plato spent his entire life trying to answer. And through his profound ideas, He shows us that the path to fulfillment begins not with external success, but with internal reflection. So, let's explore this journey together and discover how Plato's timeless philosophy can help us find a deeper, richer life. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking content. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Let's get started. Plato's first major idea, think more, may seem like a simple, almost self-explanatory piece of advice, but its implications are far-reaching, and it forms the cornerstone of his philosophy. It's easy in modern life to get swept up in the rush of daily activities. The demands of work, relationships, and social media constantly pull us in different directions. In this whirlwind, it's easy to act on impulse, follow popular opinions, or get lost in the noise of what others think. Plato believed this tendency to drift with the current, to follow the crowd without reflecting, was a key reason people live unfulfilled, misguided lives. Plato's philosophy urges us to do the opposite, to step back, to pause, and to question, to think deeply and carefully about our choices, beliefs, and the world around us. In essence, his message is that we should not live on autopilot or be mere products of our environment. Instead, we need to engage in active, conscious reflection on who we are, what we believe, and why we live the way we do. This is the foundation of knowing yourself, which Plato sees as a necessary step for living a life of fulfillment, or Eudaimonia, in his dialogues, particularly in works like the Meno and the Apology. Plato demonstrates the value of this approach. He used Socrates as a model for this process of self-examination. Socrates, Plato's teacher and mentor, famously declared that the unexamined life is not worth living. This is not just about questioning external ideas, but about reflecting on your own beliefs and assumptions, challenging the narratives that you have unconsciously accepted. For Plato, knowing yourself is the key to living an authentic life. It is about understanding your own desires, motivations, and weaknesses. It's about recognizing that you might not know everything and being willing to challenge your own convictions. Without this deep introspection, Plato warns, we risk becoming like people who are dragged around by their emotions, like wild horses pulling a chariot in all directions. When we let our emotions take the lead, we become subject to whims, impulses, and external pressures. Instead of directing our lives with purpose, we're tossed by forces outside our control. Take, for example, the modern obsession with fame and wealth. In today's world, it's easy to fall into the trap of chasing what others value: money, status, popularity, and think that these things will bring us happiness. Yet, if we never stop to ask ourselves what we truly want, or what really brings us fulfillment, we're bound to end up with a life that feels hollow. This is where Plato's idea of knowing yourself comes in. Rather than simply going along with what society tells us is important, we need to ask, what do I value? What do I believe will bring me peace and fulfillment? Here's an example. Imagine someone who spends their entire life striving to live up to society's expectations. They work long hours to climb the corporate ladder, buying expensive clothes, cars, and homes because they believe these are the markers of success. However, at the end of their career, they might find that they feel empty inside. They've followed the crowd, but they've never truly asked themselves whether these achievements actually align with their personal values. If they had engaged in self-reflection earlier, they might have discovered a different path that was more in tune with who they truly are, perhaps a career in the arts, teaching, or something else entirely. In this way, thinking more doesn't just mean being intellectually curious or reflective in an abstract sense. It's about being active in the process of self-discovery. It means taking the time to reflect on your desires, your motives, and the way you live your life. Plato's challenge is to engage in a kind of self-therapy, a process of questioning everything about yourself, your goals, and your values, and to constantly refine your understanding of the good life. This process of self-examination is not easy. It involves looking at our flaws, confronting our weaknesses, and questioning the very foundations of what we believe to be true. Yet, this is the only way to avoid the common pitfall of living according to unexamined, superficial ideals. By learning to see through the illusions of the world, whether they are societal expectations or our own internal biases, we can begin to live a life of greater depth, wisdom, and purpose. Another important aspect of thinking more is the need to engage in what Plato called Socratic dialogue. Socrates didn't just ask questions for the sake of it. He used dialogue as a tool for deeper insight. Socratic dialogue is about engaging with others in a thoughtful, open-ended conversation, not to win an argument, but to uncover truths together. Through dialogue, we can refine our own ideas. In the process, come to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. Imagine a person who is unsure about a major life decision, whether to take a job offer, move to a new city, or end a relationship. Rather than jumping straight into action, they could benefit from engaging in a Socratic dialogue by talking with someone they trust, someone who isn't just looking to give advice, but who is genuinely interested in helping them clarify their thinking. They could examine their options from different angles. This might lead them to realize, for example, that their decision is being driven by a fear of failure rather than a genuine desire to grow. Plato saw this kind of self-examination as a form of intellectual and emotional liberation. The more we understand ourselves, our fears, desires, values, and weaknesses, the less likely we are to be at the mercy of our emotional impulses or the whims of society. It's only through this deeper knowledge that we can begin to live a life of integrity and authenticity, aligned with our true selves. The implications of thinking more go beyond just self-knowledge. They extend to how we relate to others, make decisions, and even navigate society as a whole. Plato was not advocating for a life of intellectual detachment or solipsism, but for one of active engagement and reflection. It's not enough to simply be aware of your inner world. You must also critically engage with the external world and understand the forces at play there. This includes questioning cultural norms, political systems, and social values that may be misleading or harmful. Take the example of political decisions. Plato was deeply skeptical of democracy because he believed that most people did not think carefully enough before voting. In his view, democracy often led to the election of leaders who were more interested in their own power and popularity than in serving the common good. He thought that only those who had engaged in deep philosophical reflection and self-examination, those who had cultivated wisdom through knowledge of themselves and the world, should be entrusted with leadership. This is an especially pertinent point in today's world, where political decisions are often made based on superficial media portrayals or emotional appeals rather than careful deliberation. Plato's challenge to us is to take a step back and think more critically about the political and social structures that govern our lives. Are we being guided by wisdom, or are we simply following the crowd? In conclusion, thinking more is not just a call for intellectual reflection, but a call to take control of your own life and make decisions that are aligned with your deepest values. It's a process that requires courage, self-awareness, and a willingness to engage in difficult questions. But through this kind of self-examination, we can learn to live more authentically, make better decisions, and ultimately, lead lives that are more meaningful and fulfilling. One of Plato's most profound and transformative ideas about love comes from his dialogue, The Symposium, where he presents love not as a simple emotion or a search for comfort, but as a force that can elevate and transform us. In this dialogue, a group of men gather for a banquet and share their thoughts on the nature of love. Plato's view of love, as portrayed through the character of Socrates, stands in stark contrast to modern, simplistic notions of romantic relationships. For Plato, love is not about finding someone who merely accepts you as you are, but rather about finding someone who challenges you, inspires you, and helps you become the best version of yourself. Plato's concept of love as a transformative force is grounded in the idea that love should push us to grow and improve. The right partner is someone who brings out the best in you, not by mirroring your strengths, but by offering qualities and perspectives that you may lack. This is the essence of what Plato sees as true love, a relationship that not only provides emotional support but also fosters personal development and intellectual growth. True love is not static or comfortable. It is dynamic, evolving, and, at times, uncomfortable. It forces us to confront our limitations, and encourages us to transcend them. Plato's view of love as transformative can be seen through the concept of eros, which in ancient Greek philosophy was not simply the god of romantic love, but a force that could lead to higher understanding and self-realization. Eros, in Plato's view, is a form of divine madness, not in the sense of being out of control, but in the sense that it drives us beyond ourselves, pushing us to reach for something greater than our immediate desires. Eros does not simply satisfy our needs in the moment, but challenges us to seek deeper truths about ourselves and the world around us. When we think about modern relationships, it's easy to fall into the trap of seeking someone who mirrors our current emotional state or lifestyle. Many people look for a partner who simply provides comfort, companionship, and acceptance. While these qualities are essential in a relationship, Plato would argue that this is not the highest form of love. True love, according to Plato, is about pushing each other toward growth and self-improvement. This dynamic relationship transforms both partners, allowing them to evolve into better versions of themselves. Consider the example of two people in a relationship who initially seem to have little in common. One might be highly organized, disciplined, and pragmatic, while the other is more spontaneous, creative, and free-spirited. On the surface, these differences might create friction. The pragmatic partner might feel frustrated by the spontaneity of the other, while the free-spirited partner might feel stifled by the rigidity of the other's approach to life. However, if both partners are open to the idea of mutual growth, these differences can become the very foundation of a relationship that fosters change and improvement. Over time, the disciplined partner might learn to embrace a bit more flexibility and creativity, allowing for a greater sense of freedom in their life. The spontaneous partner, in turn, might begin to appreciate the structure and organization that the other brings, learning to channel their creativity in more focused and productive ways. What begins as a source of friction can transform into a source of strength, as each person helps the other become a more balanced, well-rounded individual. This process of mutual growth is what Plato envisions as the true power of love, rather than remaining stagnant in a relationship where both partners simply reflect and reinforce each other's existing strengths and weaknesses. Love, in Plato's view, should be a force that continuously challenges both individuals to expand their horizons. A loving partner should be someone who helps you see things from a new perspective, encourages you to explore different aspects of yourself, and motivates you to reach higher levels of personal development. Love, in this sense, is not merely a passive experience of emotional fulfillment. It is an active process of transformation. It requires vulnerability, openness, and a willingness to be changed. The right partner is someone who will not simply accept you as you are, but will challenge you to become better, to become the person you were meant to be. This type of love demands work, and it can sometimes be difficult or uncomfortable. But the growth that comes from it is essential to leading a more fulfilling life. In the Symposium, the character of Socrates argues that the goal of love is to ascend from physical attraction to the love of wisdom and truth. This idea is central to Plato's philosophy of love that love, when directed properly, leads us beyond the material world and towards something more eternal and universal. The physical attraction between lovers can be a starting point, but the true purpose of love is to help both individuals grow spiritually and intellectually. It's about moving from a love of the body to a love of the soul, from the temporary and fleeting to the permanent and unchanging. In this sense, love becomes a path of enlightenment. It is not just about finding someone who makes us feel good in the moment, but about finding someone who can help us evolve into better, wiser people. True love, for Plato, is a partnership of mutual growth and development, where both individuals challenge each other to reach their full potential. This idea of love as transformative can be extended beyond romantic relationships to other forms of love, including friendship, family, and even love for one's community. In each case, love has the potential to push us toward greater understanding, personal growth, and fulfillment. When we are surrounded by people who encourage us to be better versions of ourselves, we are more likely to grow into the people we want to be. However, Plato's view of love is not idealistic to the point of being unrealistic. He recognizes that relationships can be difficult and that love requires hard work. The transformation that comes from love is not always smooth or easy. It may involve disagreements, challenges, and moments of tension, but these difficulties are part of the process of growth. Just as a diamond is formed under pressure, so too is personal development, often forged in the crucible of a relationship that challenges us. Ultimately, Plato's message is that love should not be a comfort zone or a place of stagnation. True love is a dynamic, evolving force that drives us towards self-improvement and a deeper understanding of the world. It challenges us to look beyond our immediate needs and desires, urging us to strive for something greater for wisdom, truth, and self-realization. In modern life, where relationships are often seen as a means of emotional support or personal validation, Plato's concept of love may seem radical, but it offers a profound insight into how relationships can be a source of growth, not just comfort. The next time we think about love, whether in a romantic relationship or a friendship, it's worth considering. Is this relationship helping me become the best version of myself? Is my partner inspiring me to grow, to challenge my assumptions, and to reach for something greater? If the answer is yes, then Plato would say you've found a love that has the power to transform you. Plato's exploration of beauty offers a unique and thought-provoking perspective on aesthetics, one that goes far beyond the surface level of visual appeal. While beauty is often thought of as something purely aesthetic or subjective, something that appeals to our senses or makes us feel good, Plato took a deeper, more philosophical approach to the question of what beauty really is and why it affects us so profoundly. For Plato, beauty was not just a superficial quality. It was an essential language that communicated deeper truths about the nature of the good life. His view of beauty was a reflection of the soul's longing for harmony, balance, peace, and strength, qualities that, according to him, we deeply yearn for but often fail to cultivate in our own lives. At the core of Plato's philosophy of beauty is the idea that beauty serves as a reminder of a higher reality, one that exists beyond the physical world. Plato believed that what we perceive as beautiful, whether in art, nature, or human beings, is an imperfect reflection of a more perfect form of beauty that exists in the realm of the forms. The forms, in Plato's philosophy, are eternal, unchanging ideals that represent the true essence of things. The beauty we experience in the material world, Plato argued, is only a faint, imperfect reflection of this higher beauty. The world of the senses, for Plato, is always in flux, while the world of the forms represents timeless truths. This view of beauty is not just abstract philosophy. It has practical implications for how we live our lives. Plato believed that our exposure to beauty can have a profound impact on our character and spiritual development. When we encounter beauty in its various forms, whether it's in the delicate symmetry of a tree, the calming composition of a painting, or the graceful movement of a dancer, our souls respond to it on a deep, unconscious level. Beauty, in Plato's view, is a kind of language, a way that the world communicates qualities that our souls hunger for. These qualities are not superficial but essential to living a fulfilling and virtuous life. For example, Plato believed that beauty communicates qualities such as harmony, balance, strength, and peace. These are not just aesthetic values. They are virtues that Plato considered to be essential for living the good life. To him, beauty has the power to stir the soul, reminding us of these virtues and pushing us to embody them ourselves. The beauty we encounter in art, nature, and human interaction is not just there to be admired. It's meant to guide us, to teach us, and to transform us. By surrounding ourselves with beauty, we are exposed to these qualities, and over time, we begin to internalize them. In this sense, beauty becomes a kind of therapy, an antidote to the chaos and disorder that often plague our lives. Think of a visit to an art gallery, where you're surrounded by beautiful works of art. Imagine one particular painting that stands out. Perhaps it's a serene landscape depicting rolling hills under a golden sunset. The painting evokes a sense of peace, tranquility, and calmness. On the surface, it's just an image, a collection of brushstrokes and colors. But at a deeper level, the painting communicates something more. It taps into an unconscious part of you that yearns for peace and balance. It resonates with your soul, which might be struggling with anxiety, stress, or disquiet. The painting serves as a gentle reminder that peace is possible, that tranquility exists, and that it can be found in the world around you. This is exactly the process that Plato described. Art, in this case, becomes a medium through which beauty communicates higher truths to the viewer. It's not just about appreciating the visual aesthetic of the painting. It's about recognizing the deeper qualities that the beauty of the scene evokes, qualities such as harmony, balance, and peace that are often missing in our own lives. By experiencing beauty in art, we are given the opportunity to reflect on what's truly important and to align our souls with those higher virtues. Plato saw this process as a form of therapy. Just as we might seek physical healing through medicine or psychological healing through therapy, we can seek spiritual and moral healing through exposure to beauty. The beauty in art, nature, and even in the human form has the potential to guide our souls toward wisdom, kindness, and calmness. Just as the body heals through proper nourishment and care, the soul heals through the cultivation of beauty. In this way, beauty becomes not just an external experience, but a powerful force for internal transformation. Consider, for example, a person who is experiencing emotional turmoil. Perhaps they're struggling with anger, frustration, or despair. In such a state, the world can seem harsh, chaotic, and unyielding. But when this person encounters a piece of art that is filled with harmony and grace, it can evoke a shift in their inner state. Perhaps it's a piece of music that calms the mind or a poem that speaks to the soul. These experiences allow the individual to connect with the qualities they may be lacking: peace, gentleness, balance, and in doing so, they can begin to heal. The beauty of the artwork becomes a vehicle for personal growth, helping the person move from a state of emotional disturbance to a place of inner peace. This therapeutic power of beauty is something Plato saw as essential not just for individuals, but for society as a whole. In his ideal city-state, as described in the Republic, Plato envisioned a society where beauty played an integral role in the development of virtuous citizens. Art and beauty were not just to be appreciated for their own sake, but were part of a larger educational system designed to cultivate moral and intellectual virtues. In Plato's view, beautiful things, whether they were objects of art, architecture, or even beautiful human deeds, had the power to influence the character of individuals and the society as a whole. A society that prioritizes beauty, he believed, would be a society that fosters harmony, justice, and moral excellence. In modern society, we often take beauty for granted. We may think of it as something decorative, something to be admired, but not necessarily to be taken seriously. However, Plato's philosophy challenges us to reconsider our understanding of beauty. Rather than simply enjoying beauty for its aesthetic value, we should think about how it shapes us. How does the beauty around us influence the way we live, think, and act? Plato would argue that beauty has a deeper purpose. It is a tool for moral and spiritual development. One of the key points Plato makes is that beauty should not be reduced to mere appearances. Today, we live in a culture that often associates beauty with physical appearance. Beauty is something to be seen, admired, and consumed. But Plato would argue that this is a shallow understanding of what beauty truly is. Beauty is not just about how things look, it's about what they represent. The beauty of a person, a work of art, or a piece of nature is not just about its external features, but about the deeper qualities it embodies. The harmony, balance, and peace that we see in these things are reflections of the deeper truths about the universe and our lives. In this way, Plato's view of beauty asks us to reconsider our relationship with the world around us. Instead of rushing through life, constantly chasing after material success or fleeting pleasures, we should take time to notice the beauty that surrounds us and allow it to guide our souls. Whether it's in a work of art, a moment in nature, or even in the people we encounter, beauty is a reminder of what is good, true, and beautiful in the world. By cultivating an appreciation for beauty, we allow it to shape our character and guide us toward a more virtuous and fulfilling life. This perspective on beauty offers a radical shift from the way many people today view aesthetics. Rather than being something superficial or fleeting, beauty becomes a tool for personal and spiritual growth. It's a reminder of the qualities we aspire to: harmony, balance, strength, and peace, and an invitation to align our lives with these virtues. In a world that often feels chaotic and fragmented, Plato's idea of beauty offers a path back to wholeness. Beauty is not just something we admire from a distance. It is something that can transform us, heal us, and lead us toward a better, more meaningful life. Plato's fourth and final big idea, reforming society, stretches the boundaries of his philosophical thought, positioning him as a visionary for what the ideal society could look like. In the Republic, his most famous dialogue, Plato presents a blueprint for an ideal city-state, a society that functions harmoniously and promotes the common good. Plato's idea of reforming society was deeply rooted in his belief that human beings, as social creatures, should organize themselves in a way that supports collective well-being, nurtures wisdom, and fosters virtuous living. His vision was not a utopia in the conventional sense. It was a society rooted in reason, morality, and balance. At the heart of Plato's reform of society is the idea that the best leaders are not politicians, but philosophers. This idea, which seems both radical and idealistic, is what truly sets Plato's political philosophy apart from conventional political thought. Plato argued that politicians, who often seek power for personal gain, are unsuitable to rule. In contrast, philosophers who are dedicated to wisdom and truth are the only ones who can rule justly and in the best interest of society. According to Plato, the ideal rulers are individuals who are not motivated by personal ambition or the pursuit of wealth, but by a deep commitment to the truth, wisdom, and justice. In the Republic, Plato describes an ideal society where individuals are divided into three main classes: the producers, the auxiliaries, and the rulers. The producers are those who provide the material goods and services of the society, such as farmers, craftsmen, and merchants. The auxiliaries are the warriors or protectors of the society, tasked with defending it from external threats. Finally, the rulers are the philosophers, the most virtuous and wise individuals, capable of making decisions for the greater good of the society. The rulers, Plato argues, must be trained to understand the truth about what is just and good, and only then can they lead effectively. One of the reasons Plato believed philosophers should rule is that they are, above all, seekers of truth. Philosophers, unlike politicians, are not driven by self-interest or the desire for personal power. They are motivated by the pursuit of wisdom, the quest to understand the nature of reality, and the desire to achieve justice for all. Plato famously wrote that the ideal rulers should be those who love knowledge and who have the capacity for rational thinking and moral insight. For Plato, the role of a ruler was not to seek personal glory or wealth, but to guide society toward the good, ensuring that justice, harmony, and virtue prevail. This ideal of philosopher kings, rulers who are wise, virtuous, and knowledgeable remains one of Plato's most provocative and ambitious ideas. He imagined a society where the ruler's primary concern is not to gain power or accumulate wealth, but to foster the well-being of the entire community. This contrasts sharply with modern political systems, where many leaders often act out of self-interest or a desire for popularity. Plato's philosopher kings would be entirely different from the typical politicians of today, whose motivations often revolve around the desire to stay in power and secure personal gain. For Plato, the central aim of the state should be to help its citizens live a fulfilling and virtuous life. This, in turn, requires a government that is not only just but also deeply aligned with philosophical wisdom. The philosopher king, then, becomes a symbol of the ideal ruler, one who acts as a guide for others to live a life of virtue and wisdom. Unlike the often self-serving nature of political rule, Plato's ideal ruler would seek to ensure that justice and fairness govern every aspect of the society's life. To illustrate Plato's argument, imagine a country led by a politician who values personal power, popularity, and material wealth over the needs of the people. This leader might focus on short-term policies that are designed to win votes, such as offering tax breaks for the wealthy or cutting social programs to reduce government spending. While these actions may create the illusion of prosperity in the short term, they can have damaging long-term consequences, exacerbating inequality and undermining social cohesion. The politician, in this case, is driven by the desire for personal gain rather than the greater good of the society. Contrast this with a society led by a philosopher king, a ruler who prioritizes wisdom, justice, and the well-being of the citizens above all else. This leader might not always seek the approval of the masses, but instead make difficult but necessary decisions for the long-term good of society. The philosopher king, as Plato envisioned, would seek to ensure that the society is built on principles of fairness and wisdom, where the needs of all citizens are met and where individuals are encouraged to live virtuous lives. Such leadership might involve controversial policies, but in the long run, these policies would help to promote justice, equality, and a more harmonious society. Plato's ideal society, in this sense, would be led not by populist politicians, but by wise rulers who understand the true meaning of justice and who work tirelessly to create a society where virtue and wisdom are valued above material success or personal power. The philosopher kings in Plato's ideal society are not just political leaders. They are also the moral guardians of the community. They are the ones who are entrusted with ensuring that the society remains on the path of justice and virtue. In Plato's vision, the philosopher rulers would be chosen based on their ability to reason, their moral integrity, and their dedication to truth. These individuals would be deeply committed to the common good, working selflessly for the betterment of the society rather than for personal enrichment. In Plato's ideal society, the rulers would undergo an extensive education designed to prepare them for leadership. This education would focus on the development of the intellect and the cultivation of moral virtues. Only those who demonstrated wisdom, courage, and a deep understanding of justice would be chosen to rule. The goal of this education was to ensure that the rulers were equipped to make wise, ethical decisions that served the best interests of society as a whole. The philosopher kings would not rule in a traditional sense. They would govern with the understanding that their power was entrusted to them for the benefit of all citizens. Unlike modern political leaders, who often seek to maximize their own power and control, the philosopher king would rule with humility, knowing that the true power of a leader comes from wisdom, not domination. Let's look at a modern-day example to understand the implications of Plato's idea. Consider a nation facing a critical environmental crisis, perhaps widespread deforestation, rising pollution levels, and the depletion of natural resources. A politician focused on short-term political gain might push through policies that prioritize economic growth at the expense of environmental protection. These policies might lead to temporary job creation, but they would also accelerate environmental degradation, with long-term consequences for future generations. In contrast, a philosopher leader would take a broader view, recognizing that true prosperity comes not just from economic growth, but from sustainable development, which ensures that future generations inherit a livable planet. In Plato's view, a leader who has the wisdom to see beyond the immediate, superficial gains would be the one who makes decisions that safeguard the environment, even if these decisions are unpopular in the short term. For example, the philosopher leader might implement policies that protect natural resources, invest in renewable energy, and shift the economy toward more sustainable practices. This approach might not win the leader immediate popularity, but it would create a society that is healthier, more just, and more resilient in the long run. Plato believed that the key to a just society lay in the education of its leaders. The philosopher king was not just someone with intellectual knowledge, but someone who had undergone rigorous training in philosophy, ethics, and governance. This education would prepare the ruler to make difficult decisions, weigh competing interests, and prioritize the well-being of all citizens. One of the key features of Plato's vision of philosopher kings is their ability to think deeply and rationally about complex issues. Plato's ideal rulers would not be swayed by popular opinion or political pressures. Instead, they would base their decisions on reason and their understanding of what is truly just. The philosopher king, according to Plato, would possess the wisdom to make decisions that were not only beneficial in the short term, but would also ensure the long-term flourishing of society. In this sense, Plato's idea of philosopher kings is not just about ideal leadership. It's about cultivating a new kind of political culture, one where leaders are chosen for their wisdom and virtue, rather than for their popularity or political savvy. It's a vision of a society where leaders are deeply committed to serving the common good, and where governance is guided by the principles of reason, justice, and wisdom. In conclusion, Plato's concept of reforming society through the leadership of philosopher kings remains one of the most provocative and influential aspects of his political philosophy. His critique of contemporary politics and his ideal of a society governed by wisdom, virtue, and justice challenges us to think deeply about the nature of leadership and the kind of society we want to build. By placing philosophers at the helm of society, Plato sought to create a world where rulers were motivated by the common good and where justice and wisdom were the guiding principles of governance. While Plato's ideal society may seem distant or unattainable, it serves as an enduring reminder of the importance of wisdom, virtue, and ethical leadership in creating a just and flourishing society. Plato's ideas, although conceived over 2,000 years ago, continue to resonate deeply with the challenges and aspirations of modern life. His philosophy transcends the boundaries of ancient Greece to address questions about self-fulfillment, love, beauty, and governance that are just as relevant today. Plato's brilliance lies in his ability to connect profound, abstract ideas with practical applications for how we can live meaningful and impactful lives. At the heart of his teachings is the concept of Eudaimonia, a Greek term that refers to a life well lived, characterized by fulfillment and flourishing. Plato challenges us to think critically about what this means and how we can achieve it. He argues that true happiness and fulfillment don't come from chasing external markers of success like fame, wealth, or power. Instead, they stem from the cultivation of inner wisdom, the pursuit of meaningful relationships, the appreciation of beauty, and the creation of a just society. One of Plato's most enduring lessons is the importance of self-examination. His call to know yourself is as much a personal challenge as it is a societal one. In a world that often prioritizes speed and convenience over depth and reflection, Plato reminds us to pause and ask ourselves the big questions. What do I truly value? What kind of person do I want to be? Are my actions aligned with my principles? This commitment to self-awareness helps us avoid the pitfalls of living a shallow, unexamined life and pushes us toward greater clarity, authenticity, and purpose. Plato also emphasizes the transformative power of love, but not in the way we often think of it. For Plato, love isn't about finding someone who simply accepts us as we are. It's about being challenged and inspired by someone who helps us grow into the best version of ourselves. Love, in his view, is a catalyst for personal and spiritual development, a force that propels us beyond our comfort zones and toward greater self-realization. In today's world, where relationships are often seen as a source of comfort or validation, Plato's perspective offers a refreshing reminder of love's potential to be a driver of growth and transformation. Equally compelling is Plato's philosophy of beauty. He saw beauty not as something superficial or fleeting, but as a gateway to deeper truths about harmony, balance, and strength. Whether it's found in art, nature, or human interaction, beauty has the power to elevate our souls and guide us toward a more virtuous life. Plato's belief that beauty is a form of therapy, a tool for healing and growth, encourages us to seek out and appreciate the beauty in our lives, not just for its aesthetic value, but for its ability to inspire and transform us. Perhaps Plato's most ambitious idea is his vision of a just society, one led by philosopher kings who are motivated by wisdom and the common good rather than personal ambition. While the concept of philosopher rulers might seem idealistic, the underlying message is clear. Leadership should be rooted in virtue, wisdom, and a commitment to justice. In an age where political and corporate leaders are often driven by short-term gains and personal interests, Plato's call for ethical, thoughtful leadership is more relevant than ever. But Plato's philosophy isn't just about big ideas, it's about action. He doesn't ask us to passively admire these concepts. He challenges us to live them. Are we taking time to reflect on our lives and align our actions with our values? Are we surrounding ourselves with relationships that help us grow? Are we seeking out beauty in the world and allowing it to shape us? And perhaps most importantly, are we contributing to a society that values wisdom, kindness, and justice? These questions aren't easy, but they're necessary if we want to live lives of true fulfillment and make a positive impact on the world around us. Plato's philosophy isn't about perfection, it's about striving. It's about recognizing that the journey toward wisdom, love, beauty, and justice is ongoing, and that every step we take matters. So, what's next? How can we take Plato's timeless lessons and apply them to our lives today? Start by asking yourself some of the questions Plato posed. Reflect on what brings you true joy and fulfillment. Seek out relationships that challenge and inspire you. Surround yourself with beauty and let it guide your soul. And most importantly, look for ways to contribute to a more just and compassionate world. If this exploration of Plato's ideas has sparked your curiosity, why not dive deeper? Philosophy has the power to change not only how we think, but how we live. Subscribe to the channel for more philosophical insights and stories from history's greatest thinkers. Share this video with friends who might need a little inspiration or a fresh perspective. And if you found value in this journey through Plato's philosophy, give this video a like to help others discover it too. Together, we can keep exploring, learning, and growing one idea at a time. Let's take Plato's timeless wisdom and make it a part of our modern lives. Thank you for watching, and until next time, let's keep striving for eudaimonia,